Hi, everyone. Welcome to the latest installment of our ongoing editorial webinar series, Coffee Talk. Each hour-long information-packed episode, organized by the hardworking folks at Redmond Channel Partner and 1105 Media Publication, features the observations and insights of an independent expert on a wide range of tech industry topics. Many thanks to the underwriting sponsor of this episode, OpenText Cybersecurity, formerly AppRiver, helping organizations of all sizes protect their valuable and sensitive information with products, services, and training. Without their support, this series would not be possible. And thanks to you for joining us. I'm John K. Waters, Editor-in-Chief of the Convergence 360 Group of 1105 Media, and I'll be your moderator. Today's topic is Top 5 Things You Need to Know About Microsoft's New Partner Program. And our main presenter is technologist, creator of compelling content, and senior resultant, Howard M. Cohen. But before we get started, I need to do just a bit of housekeeping. This episode is being recorded for later access. Keep an eye out for an email with a link to that recording. It'll be coming your way in the next few days. We'll make some time during the call for questions. Please feel free to type your questions into the Q&A box at any time. Our sponsor has provided some extra resources you definitely won't want to miss. They're available now on your console. And as a small thank you to the first 200 attendees who stick with us to the end, we will be sending you a $5 gift certificate to Starbucks. It's a cup of joe to go with the info. Now let's meet our first speaker. Howard M. Cohen has been in the IT industry for more than 4 decades. During that time, he has held senior executive positions in many of the top channel partner organizations, and he currently writes for and about IT and the IT channel. He is a sought-after speaker, an insightful observer of the technology landscape, and one of our favorite presenters. You're in for a great session, folks. Take it away, Howard.
Thank you so much, John, and hello, everybody. Welcome to today's presentation. I just wanted to take a second to point out, John mentioned the title that I've taken for myself, Senior Resultant. And of course, a resultant is somebody who's very focused on results, and we're going to be talking about that during today's session. Another thing that's going to come up repeatedly, and John already did it, is why I refer to myself as senior. It's because I'm incredibly old. And I've been around this industry a long, long time, and that will pop up in a couple of places during the presentation, so be prepared for that. Any of you who have attended any of our presentations in the past know that I love to begin every presentation with a word of the day. Today's word is a little unusual. It's really more of a phrase, and that phrase is quid pro quo. In this case, quid pro quo is a good thing. It's a really good thing because what I'm referring to is the fact that if you, as a partner, can do things that help Microsoft achieve its objectives and its goals, Microsoft will be glad to do things that will help you achieve yours. And that's a great thing. And that's really been the materia of the relationship between Microsoft and partners for as far back as I can remember, and that's pretty far back. I sold my first Microsoft product in 1981, long before there was a partner program. And a lot of things have changed. Some things have not. We'll be focusing on both. This quid pro quo creates what I like to refer to as the win-win-win-win. You win because you achieve more business, more gross profit, more of the good things that make your company grow. You will probably be engaging with partners in today's Microsoft community because there are things that you don't do that your customers need. And so you, hopefully, if you're listening to Microsoft carefully, you're partnering with other partners to get those services for them. The customer wins because they get a bigger, broader, bolder solution from you and your partners and Microsoft. And then finally, Microsoft wins because they achieve more revenue, more profitability for their shareholders. Okay, so we've got a win-win-win-win. This leads to what I'm going to tell you is your continuing mission. And it has been my mission for the last 42 years, since I first got involved with Microsoft. And that is, you are to make the most of your Microsoft relationship. You invest a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of energy into your Microsoft relationship, and you have every right to expect a great return. And what we're going to talk about today is how to leverage the program, leverage the relationship to achieve that return and get the most out of your Microsoft relationship. So let's get started with the first question of today's session. And this is a definition of terms question. What is Microsoft? What is Microsoft? If you were to ask people in general, what is Microsoft? The first thing they would say is, oh, it's the largest software company in the world. And it may be, sometimes it's not, sometimes it is. It certainly is a software developer and has been since its very inception. Back in 1975, when Microsoft, and yes, that was their logo back then, introduced their first product, which was an interpreter for the BASIC language. Now, that's not basic language. That's the BASIC language, which was the beginner's all-purpose symbolic instructional code, BASIC. And they ran it on the Altair 8800, which is commonly considered to be the first microcomputer before Apple and before anybody else. And so Bill and Paul and everybody else on the team were involved in creating this BASIC interpreter, selling it and documentation around it. And from there, they grew more products and more products and more products until today you need an advanced degree in rocket science to be able to keep track of all the products and all the SKUs and all the different permutations of Microsoft software. I'm betting that nobody can even identify the products that are displayed on this screen just by the first letter of their names, but you can figure that out later. Microsoft is also a hardware manufacturer. Now, of course, when I said that, the word Surface probably popped into all of your heads, but I have to tell you, Surface was not the first product that Microsoft manufactured. They've been a hardware manufacturer since just about the beginning, the early 1980s. They introduced the first Microsoft mouse. Now, it strongly resembles a mouse that was created by Xerox for their Star computer, but we won't go down that rat hole. We'll just say that this was the first Microsoft mouse. They also manufactured boards for the early IBM personal computer when it was first released. Some were just memory boards. Others were special boards, like a soft card. And the soft card was meant to insert a Zilog Z80 processor into the 8088-based IBM PC. This was so that it could run CP/M, which was an earlier operating system than DOS. And DOS, of course, the predecessor to Windows. CP/M was created by Digital Research and Gary Kildall, and those of you who were around back then remember that everybody thought it would be the operating system, and Gates and company proved them wrong. I had a soft card in my first IBM PC because I was an addict of WordStar before there was ever a Microsoft Word or any other word processing product. So they've been a hardware manufacturer for a long time. They've introduced ergonomic keyboards that I personally cannot type on. They've introduced game consoles. This is an earlier Xbox. The new one is more of a tower form factor. Here's a pop quiz. Pop quiz. What is that? Well, for those of you who've been around for a while, you'll remember that is the Zune. Zune was Microsoft's attempt at an MP3 player. If it were beige, it would look suspiciously like an iPod, but that's another story. Okay, here's another pop quiz. Ready? What was that called? Anybody? Well, that was the Microsoft Surface. That's right. Before there was a laptop or a laptop that thought it was a tablet or a tablet that thought it was a laptop, Microsoft Surface was a table form factor computer. You could put memory devices on it. It would read them. You could put your phone on it. It would copy data from that. You could use your fingers to mouse all over it. You may have seen something like this in NCIS and other television programs where they use them today. But they liked the name so much that they saved it for later and gave it to products like the Surface Hub, which is a large room-sized display on wheels that is a full-fledged Surface computer. The Surface Studio, which I personally think is an elegant, elegant machine, wonderful for designers, and the fabulous Surface laptops and tablets. I produced this slide presentation on a Microsoft Surface Pro 8. Fabulous form factor, really innovative. I love the device and have had several of them in the series. Great machine. The last thing I'd want to show you in this regard is Nicole Deason. Nicole Deason, many of you may know, is the Chief Channel Officer for Microsoft. What you may not know is that Nicole came up to that position through Microsoft's hardware division. She was responsible for Surface sales prior to becoming Chief Channel Officer. And so Microsoft takes hardware very, very seriously and hopes that the channel will too. Okay, so they're a software developer, they're a hardware manufacturer. What else? Well, those of us who came from as far back as I came from would refer to them as a service bureau, but today we refer to them as an operator of data centers. And I'm talking about a lot of data centers. They have more than 200 of them in more than 34 countries, and they have hundreds of thousands of miles of cable under the ocean, over the land, fiber optic, you name it. It's part of the Microsoft network that pulls all 200 and something data centers together. And in these data centers, they fulfill another piece of their picture. They are a provider of cloud services. Those of you who are relatively new to Microsoft probably think of them primarily as a provider of cloud services, and you'd be absolutely right. But you may not have known the history until now. And these cloud services align very nicely with the divisions of businesses and divisions of functionality that Microsoft organizes itself into. Let's take a quick look at those. The first one being infrastructure. Underneath it all, you got to have the plumbing. And so the first set of cloud services, Windows Server on Azure, SQL Server, Linux on Azure, SAP on Azure, VMware, so many other products. These are all part of the Microsoft infrastructure cloud offerings. Next, there's digital and app innovation. Developers love the Azure platform. They love Visual Studio. They love having GitHub as a wonderful repository for everything. Those who are developing in microservices like the container apps and Kubernetes services that are available from Azure. And so developers love working in the Microsoft cloud environment. Data and AI, artificial intelligence, of course, are becoming a bigger and bigger part of the Microsoft offering. Here we have Purview and Azure AI, Cosmos, Azure SQL. There's more and more, and of course, Power BI. And then finally, the division we're probably all most familiar with, I would say, which is modern work and the modern workplace. Here we find Microsoft 365 and Teams, which to me is just one thing. They run on Windows 11, which you can obtain from Windows 365. And there are a variety of other products and platforms available in there, and they all run in the Microsoft cloud as well. So this is a general overview. Now, coming into 2023 and now into 2024, Microsoft has identified a group of new partner solution designations to help us categorize ourselves as partners better. This facilitates partnering. It also helps customers understand us better and what they can expect from us. And it gives you the opportunity, and I think it's the greatest opportunity in the world, to focus. Focus is a gift. And so you can be a solutions partner for infrastructure, which we just looked at, data and AI, which more and more people are flocking to, digital and app innovation. We'll talk more about innovation later. Modern work, of course. There are many partners who are focused on modern work. Also security and business applications, which talks to the Dynamics suite, CRM, and a variety of other business applications that you can be a solutions partner for. Now, we've talked about Microsoft being a software developer, a hardware provider, a hardware manufacturer, a cloud services provider, and an operator of data centers. There's one more thing that Microsoft is that I found that, well, partners seem to forget over the years, and that is Microsoft is a public corporation. You as an individual can own shares of Microsoft. You can become an owner by buying shares in Microsoft. The fact that they are a public corporation means, you'll appreciate this especially if you do buy shares and become a shareholder. Microsoft is a public corporation, a business that's in business to make money for its stakeholders, including its shareholders. Okay, so it's a public corporation that's in business to make money. I say that partners have forgotten this over the years because all too often I've heard partners say things like, well, Microsoft had better do that for me because I'm a partner. Well, that's kind of like nonsense. Microsoft will not do something for you just because you're a partner, just because you signed up for the program. They'll provide you with information, they'll provide you with materials, but you can't expect to get the kind of attention from Microsoft that you really need to make the most of your Microsoft relationship if you're just signed up as a partner and you're not active, you're not proactive and actively doing things that will endear you to them. So they're in business to make money, and they want you to help them. So this brings us to my second question of the session. And that second question is, exactly how does Microsoft make this money? How does Microsoft make money? Now, naturally, Microsoft in part makes money by selling these hardware products that we talked about. They still sell software licenses, as we talked about. Partners may sell those also. Microsoft can sell them themselves through their portals. They're sold in many different ways, but there's a more fundamental way that Microsoft sees as the core of its revenue stream in the foreseeable future. Now, cloud has become the core of Microsoft since before Satya Nadella took over as CEO. So you'd think, oh, well, then they make money when we sell cloud service subscriptions, right? All we have to do is sell subscriptions and they're making money, and that is not quite the case. Back when she was channel chief, Gabriella Schuster shared with me that Microsoft sells 60,000 subscriptions a month. That was years ago. They're a little more tight-lipped about that today, but I can guarantee you it's more. They're probably well over 100,000 subscriptions each and every month. And that is not what makes money for them. They don't make money when a subscription is sold to a customer, agreed upon with a customer. And the reason is that cloud services, by and large, feature consumption-based billing. This is one of the big advantages of cloud services, that customers only pay for what they use and only when they're using it. So if they request resources, they start paying for them. And they continue paying for them until they release them. That is when Microsoft makes money. So Microsoft only makes money when cloud services are consumed. And yes, there are some that are sold by the seat, and that's very true. But the largest portion of Microsoft's revenue stream comes from the consumption of cloud services. Which which brings us to the third question. There's still one more after this. If Microsoft only makes money when services are consumed, what do they want you as a partner to do? What does Microsoft want you to do? It's a good question. Let's answer it. I'll give you a hint going in. It's not just selling subscriptions. Yes, selling subscriptions is a big step on the path to getting them consumed. But that's not the denouement. That's not where the action happens. No, it's more than just selling services. Microsoft wants you to be involved in increasing Azure consumption. Increasing Azure consumption. And I kind of rendered this as a rubber stamp kind of thing, because I've always had this image of people walking around the Redmond campus in all the buildings with that stamped on their forehead. And I saw partners with that stamped on their forehead. The janitors who clean up in Redmond, stamped on their forehead. As a matter of fact, everybody at Microsoft Redmond has a quota for driving Azure consumption. That includes the legal department. It is legend that the legal department decided to buy LinkedIn because it was a nice big workload that they could move on to Azure to drive up Azure consumption and fulfill their quota. Don't exactly know if that's the only reason, but I strongly suspect it's true. So thinking about that, that's how important increasing Azure consumption is to Microsoft. This actually is not totally new. Way back in the old days when we sold software licenses, we often sold them as enterprise agreements. And the enterprise agreements, the EA, always included software that the customer didn't exactly need, or at least not right away, but there were large bundles. And so some software ended up sitting on a shelf, not deployed. Microsoft put more mojo behind deployment than they did behind sales. They wanted us as partners to deploy everything, to put an end to shelfware. They gave incentives to us. They gave incentives to the customers to fund our deploying that shelfware, to get it off the shelf and into servers where it would do some good and hopefully drive some renewals. Today's version of shelfware is Azure consumption. Microsoft very much wants you to increase Azure consumption in every way possible. So here's the question, what can you do? What can you do to increase Azure consumption? And actually, there are several things you can do. The easy one, the one that makes sense right away, is to implement applications that run on Azure. And there are many of them. We'll talk about a few of them by nature shortly. Another is that you can develop applications running on Azure. And many infrastructure partners, when cloud basically eliminated their server sales and storage sales, started thinking about becoming application developers so they could make money developing applications and they could earn Microsoft love by running those applications on Azure. The good news is I'm going to encourage all of you, when you're done here today, to go and take a look at Application Development Trends magazine. You're welcome, John. John Waters is the editor of ADT. And I have a column in that publication called The Citizen Developer, which talks about low-code, no-code application development. You can develop applications by moving icons around a screen rather than having to learn code. And so you can be developing applications and you can be running many of them on Azure. Migrating applications to Azure. It may be, I've heard a rumor, that there are still some people who run their applications on premises. We got to go find them, and we got to move those applications off premises into Azure. There are also, I know this is going to sound crazy, but there are customers who are running their applications on other cloud services. Nah, can't be. Clearly, there's an opportunity to take that business away from the competition and move it to Azure. So migrating applications to Azure from wherever they happen to be right now, another great way of increasing Azure consumption and earning your wings with Microsoft. From the day he became CEO, Satya Nadella told us that we live now in the mobile first, cloud first world, and Microsoft is the platform for that. So we should be building mobile first, cloud first environments on Azure so that everybody in an enterprise can gain access to their resources and to each other using the Azure platform as the common point of contact. You may wonder what applications? Well, the obvious ones, database workloads. There are many different database engines that are running on Azure that you can use to manage the workloads you're responsible for. Business applications, Dynamics 365 is running on Azure. So when you sell 365, you are increasing Azure consumption. Process automation. Got stuck there a little, sorry. Still stuck, come on, you can do this. Process automation. There are many process automation solutions out there that will move more of the manual labor to automation so that the manual labor is no longer done by people, and they can do things that are more rewarding, more fulfilling, more profitable for them. Many vertical applications are running on Azure today. And certainly, if you're focused on specific industry verticals, you can find applications that will run very nicely on Azure and deploy them for your customers. And as we talked about a moment ago, mobile applications. There are many mobile applications now that are using Azure as their backend. They're out there collecting data from all kinds of sites and all kinds of environments and using the Azure backend to do all the necessary compute so they can report on the data that they've gathered. And so there are plenty of applications that you can intuit, that you can figure out, that you can innovate into your customer solutions. Of course, I've left one out. And that one is this year's big bet. I believe it was Steve Ballmer, when he was CEO at Microsoft, that first referred to the big bet. Microsoft always has a big bet going on. At one time, the big bet was SharePoint. SharePoint was a brand new platform that had just been pulled together from 6 or 7 other products combined into one big, beautiful, terrific platform. And that was the big bet. If you were willing to put yourself behind the big bet, Microsoft was ready to shower you with all kinds of love, all kinds of marketing support, all kinds of technical support. And then at one point, it was what was then called Lync, which eventually became what we know today as Teams. That was the big bet. There have been plenty of others. This year, I think you know what I'm going to say, the big bet is artificial intelligence and machine learning and cognitive services. Microsoft is introducing copilots for anything and everything and everyone they possibly can. And the fact of the matter is that Copilot, while it is something that will be licensed and will be paid for in a variety of ways that I guarantee will change over the next year or two, what you're going to be focused on selling are applications of artificial intelligence, ways in which artificial intelligence can be applied to bring value to customer enterprises. What are some of these? The obvious one that everybody talks about is boosting productivity. And so you're going to see AI integrated into everything from Office, to every kind of productivity software, helping intuit ideas and to make assessments that no computing product could make before. You'll see operational processes being automated with insight from artificial intelligence, helping to determine the most efficient, most effective way to do things. You'll be able to, as a writer, I'm not too thrilled with this, but you're able to generate content which will accelerate your communications rather than sitting there and struggling with writing your next email or your next report. You can turn to your AI and have the AI generate that report for you. Accelerate customer service. There are AI engines being built into all kinds of customer service platforms that help anticipate what customers are going to be needing going forward. This helps with omni-channel sales. It helps with field-based service and so many other things. AI ops, artificial intelligence in operations, will help you avoid downtime by anticipating when you may have a potential outage coming, or there may be need for an upgrade to accommodate anticipated growth. And so AI ops will be an application of AI that we'll be selling to customers and using ourselves. You can recommend specific products based on customer preferences. I recently wrote about recommender engines as a great example. Recommender engines take your customer database and your product database and compare them to each other. And what they come up with is an identification of which product is best suited for each customer, or which customers would be most interested in which products. The engine can then even send out the right marketing material to each individual customer based on that and notify your sales team. So your sales team simply has to follow up. They don't have to look any envelopes and send anything out. They don't have to look anything up. They just get a list and saying, okay, these customers should like this product, go sell it to them. And that accelerates sales. And who doesn't want to accelerate sales? We constantly talk about CX, creating superior customer experiences. And certainly by anticipating their needs, by anticipating their preferences, by collating things they've done to determine what they would most likely be enthusiastic about, we can fashion unbelievable customer experiences that are totally resonant and totally relevant to each of your customers individually. There are applications that can be used to improve decision-making by not only comparing and contrasting data, but also comparing and contrasting observations based on the data that artificial intelligence can help to divine. And we can create new products and new services based on customer preference, based on what has worked and what hasn't worked, as assessed by artificial intelligence engines. Net, there are plenty of ways in which we can create solutions using artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is an engine you need to apply to really, truly be totally successful with it. And this finally brings us to our fourth and final question. And I'm hoping that it's a question that you all have been asking over and over and over again as I've been going through this presentation. And that is, what's in it for you? A friend of mine says that everybody has the same favorite radio station, WIIFM. What's in it for me, radio? How do you make money in all of this? How can Microsoft help you make more money? And the simple, basic answer is that you make your money on what you do more than on what you sell. For many of us, this has been true for a long time. I first started sensing that this was coming in 1985 when I went from sales to services as executive VP of customer services, because I saw that being where the real money was to be made. Many have followed suit. Hopefully all of you are following that. because you probably realized long ago that there's very little profit left in selling any given product from any given manufacturer, not because of the manufacturers. They do a great job, but because of us, ourselves. Many of us are willing to discount products too severely, and therefore it's impossible to compete, and it's a race to the bottom. We've created our own race to the bottom and basically taken the margin out of products. But we can wrap services around those products. We can wrap consultative services so that we can help customers understand the value proposition of given products. We can help them understand the application of specific engines like AI and help them to determine what they want to do next. We can design solutions based on these things. We can then plan and implement those solutions. We can deploy the necessary hardware. We can integrate and implement the necessary software. Once it's in place, we can train the users. We can support we can sell the communications connections between them. We can sell maintenance services. We can sell all kinds of services. And the more services you can wrap around each of the things we've talked about today, the more money you will make. So what's in it for you from Microsoft? Microsoft is happy to help you do more of what you do so you make more money while you're helping them make more money. They're looking to you to create reasons for customers to invest in their products by investing in your services. And so they're willing to help you learn how to deliver more services better. They're willing to help you learn how AI can be applied to customer requirements. Microsoft is there to help you in a million ways if you raise your hand and show them that that's what you want to do. And so the mission that we all began when we first started in this hasn't changed, and it remains the same. For me, in 1981, a wonderful IBM marketing manager named David Bossie, I remember it as if it were yesterday, told me that what I have to do is to constantly, always innovate, innovate, innovate. I've got to be creating more applications for the different things that they sell. I have to be creating more solutions, developing more value. I have to innovate ways in which I can help customers more and more using the products that our partners, our vendor partners, make available to us. Now, Microsoft, we said that we present 5 things to know about the Microsoft Cloud Partner Program. The first of them we've already talked about, which is the new partner solution designations. You get to raise your hand and say, I want to go that way. And by the way, those of you who remember when the Microsoft Partner Network was introduced in 2009, 14 years ago, it was the same message. Focus on something. Concentrate. Be the best at one particular thing. You know, you can't have the same people take tests for every different specialization. You've got to have 4 unique individuals for each. They wanted us to focus. And today, the Microsoft Cloud Partner Program does the same thing. They want us to focus. And so you've got the co-sell program. The co-sell program basically says that everybody is incented to work with those who create solutions, to market those solutions, sell those solutions, and implement those solutions, including Microsoft's own field sellers. Everybody's interests are aligned. So if you develop applications, you don't have to just sell them yourself. You can engage with other partners to sell. You can engage with Microsoft field sellers to sell them. Lots of different opportunities in all different directions. There's the ISV Success Initiative. Basically, this is created to help ISVs, independent software vendors, to get their applications into the Azure marketplace, to fulfill all the obligations necessary to get there, and to help you market inside the marketplace and be successful in the marketplace. They've made new investments in Azure Migrate and Modernize, and those also. Again, these are more focused on AI. Almost done, John. I've heard that they're investing 5 times more than ever before in co-op funding for both depth and breadth partners. I certainly hope that's true. That would be fantastic. And your job is then to go figure out how do you get your share of that. So this brings us back to where I began and where I'm going to end, and that is your continuing mission. You are not here to do wonderful things for Microsoft. Yeah, you will end up doing wonderful things for Microsoft, but you'll do them because you're here to make the most of your Microsoft relationship. And John, now I'm done.